Wild donkey sightings are becoming more common in the Riverside and San Bernardino counties of California. The recent drought and nearby construction have forced them onto neighborhoods. Unlike the wild donkeys on federal land, these are on private land. And according to the California Department of Wildlife, you can't kill, feed, or relocate them, but residents can't resist feeding them. And the Riverside Animal Control says that wild donkeys killed by accident is on the rise. The rescue organization Disney Donkeyland Riverside is trying to bring awareness, and it recently lobbied for more signs and reduced speed limits. And this is the Donkeyland Rescue Organization website, and it's all about donkeys and stuff. And here's some of the pictures. And there's a story down here. It's pretty interesting. It's about how the donkeys got started in California. In the early 1950s, a man says he roped 22 burros north of Death Valley and set them free in Santo Motillo Canyon, Ritchie Canyon, Carlton Canyon, and Box Springs Mountains of California. And it used to be in the middle of nowhere, and that's why he picked that land to release the herd of burros into the rocky, unpopulated area. And about 50 years later, the wild burros have become as much a part of the town as the shrubs and trees that dot the face of the hills. The wild burros of California only herd left is on private land. The land is owned by various people, and the Bureau of Land Management and Riverside County Animal Control say that the wild burros are not their responsibility. So the persistent dryness of the desert has caused the burros to roam down among the houses between the canyons and Moreno Valley and Box Springs Mountains in search of fresh water and food, but means that they must cross busy streets every day. Many wild burros die of hunger or from dehydration, but traffic presents the greatest danger and high risk of the wild burros sadly being killed or left badly wounded along the side of the road after being hit by cars going 50 miles an hour or faster. The animal control officers said that there was 37 accidents involving wild burros between 2003 and 2006, and 17 small babies killed. 21-year-old Rialto residents died when her car was struck up a burro in 2005. And then there's another legend story that's pretty good right here. The legend of the Donkey Cross. And it says that, "Bring me a colt of a donkey," said Jesus, the master's request. A young donkey was brought to Jesus to carry him to Jerusalem, and a week later Jesus was ordered to be crucified. The little donkey loved the Lord and wanted to help carry his cross. Seeing the sad, tragic event occurring there, he wished with all his heart that he was able to carry the cross of Jesus, as he was the proper one to carry the heavy burdens. But, alas, he was pushed away, and the little sad donkey turned back on the sight, but waited to say goodbye until nearly all had left. And as he turned to leave, he was, in reward for his loyal and humble love, the little donkey, the Lord gave him a shadow that fell upon his back and shoulders, the shadow of the cross on the shoulders of the little donkey. There it remained. The donkeys now carry forevermore the sign and the tribute of the loyalty and love of the humblest of God's creatures. Among the beasts you alone will be blessed, and in another's time of need you bore the cross of the pain and silence. Anyway, so I just looked, and I never even noticed, but there it is. There's a little cross on their back. See, here's the cross going across the withers, and then here's the spinal cross right here, part of it. See on this one back here. And you can see on these other various pictures on the website too. I'll leave a link. A website that's how to keep a donkey for a pet. And it's pretty interesting if you're thinking of, if you've got some land. It says, don't try it. It's just like a horse, you gotta have at least a pasture and a barn, and, it said 3 acres of good grazing land for them to eat, because they don't eat a lot of, you don't have to feed them a lot of expensive foods. They um, do better with just a good hay and grazing grass. Anyway, it's just a long article. You'd have to come here. I'll put the link. How to recognize them and their temperament. That's real. Contrary to popular belief, donkeys are not stubborn-headed animals. They actually are quite intelligent and cautious. And they're cautious of new experiences and environments that they'll take in all their surroundings around them before proceeding, and that's often observed as being stubborn, and it's just being cautious. And it goes into that, and it's pretty interesting. And sizes, living conditions. It says donkeys and burros can handle most moderate living conditions. Caring for your donkey should include a lean-to or a shelter to keep them out of the severe weather. They prefer to be in a dark barn in the summer heat to get away from the sun. And just like any a person wants to get in the shade to get out of the sun, and then spray them with uh, repellent to keep the flies off of them. And then let's see, in the winter they have to make sure they have a shelter that's dry and warm because they'll catch cold. And their feet can't stay wet, or they'll get fungus hoof on their hooves. And it says minimum of 3 acres of pasture for each additional donkey. Count on an additional acre, and keep in mind the conditions of the land. The pasture is poor for foraging conditions. You will need to supplement it with a diet, but they can't have too rich of a diet, or they'll get sick in other ways. They don't really tolerate high nutrition diets. They get sick real easy if they eat too rich of food. It says overfeeding is one of the side effects of burros' number one health problem. Burros originated in North Africa deserts and flourished in our southwestern deserts because they're accustomed to a desert environment. They cannot tolerate nutrient-rich foods. Overfeeding results in obesity, founder colics, and severe skin rashes due to protein poisoning. Because it can be deadly. You have to get a veterinarian if they get you that, because it's deadly. But hoof care goes into that. It's long. Anyway, this is the Wild Free Roaming Horse and Burro Act of 1971. And here it just says that the Congress that burros and horses will be protected from capture, branding, harassment, and death. And then here's the restriction of the laws down here. Anybody who attempts to remove or willfully removes a free roaming horse or burro, converts it to private use, maliciously causes death or harassment, and does something with its remains or sells or directly or indirectly, the horse or the burro, violates a regulation and is subject to $2,000 fine or a year imprisonment. How much does it cost to adopt a wild horse or donkey? Is around $125.